Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was exactly what a lot of good sequels are. It is Five Nights at Freddy's on crack cocaine. Walter White would be proud of how much crack Five Nights at Freddy's 2 specifically is on. FNAF 2 is often sort of hated on for what it is in hindsight, but what it actually is FNAF on crack. And I think it does a good job of being FNAF on crack. Because Five Nights at Freddy's 1 was really specific, right? It was done in a way that you cannot replicate. And I'll be honest, FNAF 2 did not replicate it. None of the FNAF games replicated it. I like that. Bold take. I don't think any FNAF game feels the same way as FNAF 1 does. And I think Scott knew that. So it's like, okay, how do you up the ante of FNAF 1? How do you make it different? How do you amplify it? The answer, apparently, according to him, is more. The word more. Put more on everything. More animatronics, more chaos, more cameras, technically. More mechanics, kind of. Ish. We'll get into that. How do you make it scarier? Take away the doors. Let's just throw the doors away. We don't need those things. What are doors for? And to be fair, I don't think a real-life office in a place like this would need doors. I could be wrong. I mean, I guess you would want doors to prevent theft, but for a place as cheap as Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, I would not expect doors. So the game is often overlooked in the hindsight of its gameplay, but I really want to revisit and talk about what this game actually was, what it did, and why sometimes we just don't really care. Now, more everything is not always better, to be fair. I think perhaps maybe there are a few too many animatronics. I say that, but it's kind of hard to justify that thought because when you look at the cast, they feel so iconic in hindsight. How do you get rid of any of these guys, you know? Like, it just doesn't feel right to get rid of any of them. As much as I want to take away animatronics and feel like I could refine the gameplay, I just feel like these guys are too iconic. There's just something about them that's the pattern works. So I think I'll just take what we got. I think the whole idea of more isn't a bad one on its own, but I can see why some people do genuinely have complaints about it. Because it does feel messy sometimes. It really depends on how much you're willing to look into it, and how much you're willing to just feel the experience of the game. How willing are you to just take what the game gives you and be immersed? And I'll admit, this game is a little harder to do that than FNAF 1. FNAF 1 was like a perfect vision, whereas this game is... how would one describe this game? How does one describe FNAF 2? If the first one was like a really precise horror vision, this one, it feels like more intentional stress. Like it wants to be more intentionally stressful than FNAF 1. But that also doesn't really work, because FNAF 1 was really stressful. Overall, regardless of how I describe it, this game is not Five Nights at Freddy's 1. I think that's a very obvious statement to make. This is not FNAF 1. And it shows in most ways. The horror aspect, like what it's actually relying on, the number of animatronics, obviously, the vent, the lack of doors. All of it is so... all of it just feels different. Which I'd argue is for the better. I don't think FNAF 2 is, like, significantly worse. Right? That was fast. I think in some aspects it's a little weaker, but I don't think it's bad. I think overall, it's exactly what it needed to be for the time, and in hindsight, it's kind of just like, okay, it's another FNAF entry, I suppose. That might be a good way to describe it. It's another FNAF game. Now, when we look at, like, the themes, or, like, the thematic feeling of FNAF 2, I love it. Because here's the thing about FNAF 1 in particular. This is also in lore, so it kind of is supported. FNAF 1's pizzeria was a little kind of run down. It was kind of low budget. It was really, like, they cut a lot of corners, you know. FNAF 2 is kind of like answering the question, and this is a prequel, so it works this way. FNAF 2 is almost like answering the question, what was this place like in its prime? And if you look at it from that angle, I absolutely love it. Oh, my ankle's already moving. Like, just look at how much cleaner this place looks. Not literally clean, but, like, you know what I mean. It's more... it's got more, like, that party feeling. It's more like... especially this one here, like, oh, I can actually imagine kids being here. I look at all these rooms, look at all the aesthetic, look at the rooms for all the parties. I better keep an eye on what I'm doing. So, like, the first game was grounded. A sort of rundown pizzeria that you're surviving in as a somewhat realistic night guard. This one takes the night guard thing and arguably makes it more realistic. That may sound weird, but I'd actually say this game feels more like, or this environment at least, feels more realistic to actually entertain children. Out of all the Five Nights at Freddy's locations, I'd say this is the only one where I could actually see a parent being like, yeah, let's take our child there. Because the animatronics, even though they look kind of scary in the game, they look kind of cheerful on the stage. They look kind of like, they look entertaining. Now, obviously the withered animatronics were used for like parts and stuff. Or they were like old versions that were retooled. And they're all coming after me this time. Now, I would talk about stuff like, they were retrofitted. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, Mr. MatPat. They were retrofitted. I lost my train of thought. I knew this was going to happen, too. I lost my train of thought entirely. My flashlight battery's also about to run out. I swear these patch mods feel like 2% different. You know what I mean? They feel like they're 2% off. It's almost like the game about uncanny animatronics is also trying to be uncanny. If that even makes sense. Hear me out. Did I just invent like a really cool subgenre of mod? Game X, but it's slightly off. Like, just enough to where a veteran would feel it, but not enough to where they could properly identify it. It almost feels like a creepypasta. Does that not sound genius? I would love to play old games like that. Well, no, not like EXEs. The EXEs are like intentionally spookified. The EXEs are like intentionally made for horror. But I mean like just slightly off. You know what I mean? Like, I mean like a little bit. Also, tell me this isn't at least kind of creepy. The first time you saw this, don't act like you weren't kind of spooked. I'll be honest, I don't remember the last thing I said for this whole revisiting topic, so I think I'm just going to jump into the gameplay. I made a video a while ago, sort of by mistake. That may sound like I'm doing a cop-out, but essentially, I talked about how FNAF 2's gameplay complaints were kind of excessive and a bit, not unjustified, but like, overkill. You know, like, because back when this game came out, and we were all experiencing it for the first time, I remember I didn't see anything wrong with this game, quite frankly. Except for how Toy Bonnie behaved. He was a little weird. He still is. A lot of the complaints are like, oh, you don't need to use any of the cameras, or you don't have much of a chance to use them. There's not enough reason to use the other cameras, you just use the music box over and over and over and over again. And you're right. That's a problem. It's a real issue. People also say like, oh, the mask wards off 90% of the animatronics. That means they don't have their own identity. Is that true? Maybe. The flashlight can be used for more, but it's usually just used to ward off Foxy. So if you kind of boil the gameplay down, the cameras are only good for the marionette, the flashlight's only good for Foxy, and all of like this 7 other animatronics, 8 animatronics actually, all of them are warded off with the exact same method, which does get repetitive. However, my whole point was that I don't really care, to be quite frank. That was my whole point. I don't really care. Because these are not the kinds of games that you just go back and play. You could revisit them, but I personally don't just sit down and play the original 5 Nights of a FNAF game over again. I'm only doing it because I'm recording these videos. Back when this game came out, I didn't even think about this crap, man. I did not care. I was excited, man. This game excited me. It was, like I said, it's FNAF on crack. This game had me, like, going. It was just cool. And I still think it's kind of cool. It's crazy. And I like how crazy it is. The fact that the mechanics are so, like, saturated, I guess. Not horribly satisfying. But also not unsatisfying. The horror, or the gameplay mechanics, amplify the horror. And for a first-time experience, it works great. And quite frankly, these games are meant to be first-time experiences. You know, even things like the custom night, it's just used for 20 mode, man. I don't care. Like, so much of this is, I don't care. Because you gotta think, back when this game came out, I'll demonstrate here, it's gonna be kind of hard because it's night 3. But, back when this game came out, you gotta see, oh, there's no doors now. That's scary, because now you have more proximity to these guys than you did in the first one. The methodology of surviving has completely changed. And it's new. It's a new experience. It's scary. So when you first start up the game, your method of surviving is probably more akin to track these guys along each camera. But also don't spam the button of the flashlight because you might run out. Because you're scared. Which might sound kind of weird because obviously the game's not scary now because I played it so much. But that's how a lot of first-time FNAF playthroughs go. You abuse the mechanics you can because you're scared of the entities in question. Back in the day, we all were. I remember it vividly. I was deep in the FNAF community. I loved it. And so we didn't realize the cameras weren't useful because we were scared. That's just how these experiences work out in horror games sometimes. Now, if you saw past that, that's fine. If you really don't like this gameplay, I don't care. I don't even really like replaying it, per se. But I value the experience I had with it. And when you do finally, when that animatronic does finally show up, and you put that mask on, and they get right up in your face, like Chica and Bonnie just have been doing, or like Chica just did right there. You're like, please don't kill me, please don't kill me, please. You're freaking out, right? That's how these games are meant to be seen. They're meant to be experienced. You put that mask on, you're like, don't kill me, don't kill me. And you're like, am I safe? Am I safe? And you proceed, right? It's supposed to be driven more by instinct than mechanics. So, tab that again. And if you boil these games down too hard, it kind of rips the fun out of it. And again, I'm not saying these people are wrong. The fact that only one camera is useful in a meta sense, right, is kind of lame. It's boring. It's not the most satisfying loop in the world. But again, why are we making FNAF so meta? The meta was supposed to be saved for 20 mode. And I'm not saying 20 mode's fair. It's not, by any stretch of the imagination. It's not fair. But the first 5 nights were an incredible experience. I would not change a thing about what I experienced back then. It was scary, it was intense, it was fun. I didn't think about how useless the cameras were, because I was having fun and I was scared of what was actually happening in the moment. And the first 5 nights don't really have a balancing issue. You could play the games just normally and still survive. Night 6 and maybe 20 mode and maybe Night 6 are intense to the point where you might have some balancing issues. Although, funny enough, one of the FNAF projects that supposedly fixed it actually have even more balance issues and bugs than this version does. Even Night 6 had the surprise of Golden Freddy. The game just keeps you on your toes and has so many unique little things about it every time. And I love it for that. I absolutely adore it for that. Like, Balloon Boy showing up to take your batteries. It's a unique system. When you see Balloon Boy got in for the first time, you think, oh no, oh crap, I can't use my light. That freakout overrides your understanding of mechanics. Because I'll finish it off by saying this. Again, if you don't like FNAF 2, that's fine, I don't care. I'm explaining why I don't care about FNAF 2 having these issues. Because it's a game that's not really meant to just be played again. Even though I'm doing it right now. I'm having more fun yapping about it while playing it as opposed to actually playing it. Like, remember when Mangle hung from the ceiling for the first time? You're like, what is it gonna do? What is it gonna do? How do I get rid of it? Right? That freak out moment. Mangle did 87. Is that a real hashtag? From anywhere? Is that a real thing? That'd be amazing. Mangle did 87. I mean, probably. Also, Mangle looks more guilty than Foxy ever did. I'm pretty sure I was going to say something else to make a point, but I forgot it. But regardless of how you feel about the gameplay, I respect the opinion. And it's even factual to a point. It's not even entirely opinion. It is factual. The gameplay is not the best. But I'm just saying that it's a time capsule experience, and that there's actually a lot of horror games like this. Horror games that are very well loved and respected that just don't hold up on replay. They're just not, they're not supposed to be the most intense gaming experiences as so much they're meant to be horror games. Which is why I love some horror games and some I don't. At the end of the day, I think we can all agree that these games are best played when you're illusioned. When you are properly illusioned by the fear that the game presents you, it makes the game so much more fun. Yeah, that's FNAF 2 Revisited. It's not the best, objectively. But It is undeniably iconic, and I love it. I cannot say I don't love it. I really do. And also, can we appreciate one of the best animatronic designs? Or one of the scariest animatronic designs ever? Let's see who gets to be first, Foxy or the marionette. Oh, Foxy got me first. Dang it, Foxy. Bro, they were on a race, man. They were going to that finish line. They were ready for that. Okay. Yes, like Layers of Fear, Goofy. Goofy, do not mention the L word in my vicinity. Do not mention the forbidden game.